College tennis fans, welcome to this episode of College Tennis Talk. Today we are joined by ITA CEO Tim Russell. Tim, I want to take the time to thank you for being with us today. So now let's spin and begin.
Pleasure to be here.
Absolutely. Now, Tim, this is a strange time for us to be getting together. There's a lot of uncertainty. Before we got to this point, what was exciting you? What was the excitement of college tennis?
Well, I'm in my fifth year, actually finishing my fifth year as the ITA CEO, and I think college tennis has really never been in a stronger position. We had worked really hard to raise the profile of college tennis. We had 3 of our fall championships on ESPNU. The parity in our game was amazing. We had 6 incredible team indoor championships for the ITA that fortunately got finished at the end of February, right before COVID-19 led to the cancellation of the spring season. So I am a big tennis junkie, a college tennis lover, and I think the fact that everything has been going so well made this particular pause even more challenging.
No, it definitely is a challenge, and I couldn't agree more that prior to this, college tennis seemed to be positioning itself stronger than ever. With the help of Tennis Channel, matches getting played on TV, more and more campuses installing the live streaming cameras, giving them the opportunity to connect with their fan base around the country and throughout the world. We are in this position. What concerns do you have with the health and future of college tennis?
Well, first of all, I can tell you that the ITA is coming to work every day, working hard on behalf of college tennis and our association and our coaches and student athletes. There's a lot of concerns. I think we're in the middle of not only a pandemic, we're in the world of hurt when it comes to finances. The country and the world are in an economically challenged time. If I give you a little laundry list, I think we'll start with things like, will universities and colleges open in the fall with residential learning? I've been encouraged over the last number of days when I've been hearing more and more important college presidents say, yes, we'll have students on our campus. The next obvious big giant elephant in the room, the 800-pound elephant or gorilla, is college football, the driver of a lot of D1 athletic budgets. So whether college football will start, whether it will start on time, whether it will be delayed, whether it will have a split season, obviously will impact other sports. I can tell you on the short term, the ITA is working really hard to hope that our summer circuit will open and hopefully open on time. The ITA currently has 55 summer circuit events scheduled to start on June 20th. We're clearly in close contact with health professionals. I sit on a group called the Tennis Industry United, TIU, which is made up of the USTA, USPTA, PTR, TIA, a lot of alphabet soup in the world of tennis. We're blessed in the world of tennis to have a bunch of great medical professionals. Brian Hainline is the chief medical officer for the NCAA, who's also a former college tennis player at Notre Dame and obviously sits on the USTA board of directors. Guys like Mark Kovacs, who's been on the ITA board, is advising groups like the NBA and the Cleveland Cavaliers. So we're obviously hoping that tennis can be a leader in reopening sports and to demonstrate that tennis is the social distancing sport from an active perspective. Obviously, golf is another good social distancing sport, but the biggest concerns are getting the summer going and then hoping that ITA tennis is being played in the fall.
If we do get back to playing college tennis and some sort of normalcy, where would you like to see college tennis in 5 years, in 10 years, with the amount that you've done since you've joined the ITA in your 5 years?
Well, thanks for that question. And it's a wonderful one because I've always been a futurist of sort, looking to the future. I think great leaders try to move people and organizations from where they are to a place they'd like to be. Before answering that, let me just give a little context. When I came in, one of the first things we did was to do a strategic plan, and we've had for the last number of years 6 or 7 strategic initiatives. One has been to raise the profile of college tennis. 2 has been to tell the stories of college tennis. We've been trying to professionalize the work of the ITA and raise our profile in terms of technology. We've been trying to monetize the assets of the ITA and give back value to our partners, and we've been trying to create better student-athlete experiences. And I appreciate your affirmation that we've made good progress in 5 years. The answer to your question now is a little bit different than it might have been before COVID-19. The reality is I think the world will change a little bit. With the financial crisis we've talked about, I think college tennis programs will change a little bit. There'll be more regional play. There'll probably be less people getting on airplanes and the like. So one of the things that I've been trying to do is actually vision the question that you've been asking. And to that end, we've been having a task force of some coaches. We also had a really interesting meeting the other day, a Zoom meeting with the USTA, the ITA, with some college presidents, ADs, commissioners, coaches, and the like. And we were talking about this exact question. One of the things we want to do is ensure the future of sports like tennis. So we've been working very hard to make sure that college presidents and ADs don't use the financial crisis to actually cut the Olympic sports. You can actually read an article that I wrote about this topic. It's on the ITA's homepage. But I think we're trying to look at bigger visions for example, how can we make tennis, not just college tennis, more affordable? And I'd like college tennis to be a leader. How might we intersect juniors with college players, with post-college players, with even the pros? I think you know, Davidson, that I used to chair the USTA's junior competition committee as well as collegiate varsity. And we raised this issue literally almost 10 years ago. Tennis has gotten expensive. We have 12-year-olds flying around to get points when they can't beat a 14-year-old in their own hometown. So I think there's better ways for our sport to grow in a unified way. So I think we can look to try to create some metro centers, to look for college campuses instead of putting necessarily pro futures events on their campus, to put events that can actually feature a unified pathway from juniors to the pros. We want to keep college tennis strong, but it's going to take some work.
You know, Tim, you mentioned your article, and I'll be sure to push that on and include a link during this episode. I thought it was a great article. As soon as I finished it, I immediately forwarded it on to my supervisor and athletic directors, and really got me thinking. And you know, you were wording it as we need to create a new model. What are some ways in your mind that programs can help create this new model and become relevant on their college campuses?
So great question. So long before this crisis, we've been talking about kind of a health index that the ITA had created for its coaches to use. And I think there's a number of metrics, obviously, things like academic success, success on the court, trying to become a leader on the campus and in the community. And in fact, I'll just give you one example of what the ITA is trying to do. We've just rolled out, amidst the crisis, a new program called Tennis for America, which is trying to integrate the new national service program that General McChrystal is working on with actually one of our ITA Achievement Award winners, John Bridgeland. So I think a lot of people have heard about things like Teach for America and Habitat for Humanity. We're actually launching Tennis for America, where we're going to try to take recent college graduates who want to give a year of service back to America and demonstrate how college tennis and college sports can actually be a leader in that initiative. I would encourage all of our coaches in their respective communities to think of things, maybe not on that grand a scale, a lot of our coaches do a bunch of great stuff already. They work with underserved populations. They work with senior citizens. I think we need to do a better job of building our audiences. We need to do a better job of getting the college president out to a tennis match. We need to build our alumni groups. We need to do a better job of fundraising. In the ideal world, it'd be awesome if everybody had their own program endowed. But what I'm trying to have the ITA do is look at some structural model changes. And we haven't come to any decisions, but I think we need to say, how can we create more regional plays so we don't have people flying across the country to play one-off matches. You know, some of us have actually generated some pretty extreme ideas, which I don't think we want to do, because as I started with your first question, I think college tennis has been in a really strong place. So I don't think we want to make any forever decisions now that we might regret going, wow, I wish we hadn't done that. But I think now is the time for coaches to get on the phone with each other, to create Zoom meetings, to talk about the future. We're certainly doing that at the ITA. Our organization is strong. We have 1,200 schools. We have 1,700 programs, 3,000 coaches, 19,000 student athletes, and 1,500 officials. And I think everybody's ready to get back to the court, but we should use this time to reflect. A lot of times people think of leaders as people who are always doing things. And one of my favorite articles, which I've sent out to our coaches before, you might remember, is an article that's called Solitary Leadership. So I've certainly spent a lot of this time reflecting. I would encourage our coaches to do that on their own in their communities and then as an association. But now's the time to have us come out stronger than we were, and we were in a strong place.
Yeah, no, I agree with everything you're saying there, Tim. And one of the things I'm want to touch on a bit is the regional play that has been thrown out there, and whether that's a short-term or a long-term change. Going with the regional play, there's been some discussion or some chats going on that involve almost even reshifting some divisions, conferences into more of a regional conference. So if I'm explaining this correctly, so you would keep your conferences for your revenue generating sports, and then the non-revenue generating sports, almost creating new conferences, new conference alignment for all the tennis teams, just to keep them in a much more regionalized play. Is that a scenario that you would endorse or consider moving forward?
Yeah, actually, that's one of the items that's been on our brainstorming list. I mean, clearly, if you look back at tennis, college tennis historically, a lot more regional play happened. And I think I've proposed everything that could be called a federated model. I could see where we actually could do things more regionally. I mean, even when there was regional realignment in football, you know, how Texas A&M got in the Southeast Conference and Boston College got here and there. I mean, a lot of it doesn't make sense for some of the smaller sports. And clearly, you know, up in the Northeast part of the country, a lot of people play in a tightly knit belt, the same thing in other parts of the country. So that is exactly the kind of discussion we should be having going on. I could see conferences having their conference championships, but a lot of the rest of the play could be done in a much more economical way.
Yeah, I think we're all shifting to that regional play and that idea for the coming years. You know,
hey, before we move on, I'd love to see some of the coaches come back and actually, as opposed to talking just concepts, to actually come back and say, here's what we think this might look like. I'll give you an example of part of what the ITA is trying to do as an advanced planning tool, even looking to the fall. We, as you know, have 12 regions in D1, and yet even some of those are pretty big. The central region goes from Texas, I think, up to North Dakota, and I think the Northwest region goes from San Francisco up to Washington. I think we're going to look to add some other smaller sub-regions so that when people think of a regional tournament in the fall, it really is actually within driving distance.
Yeah, that would make sense, and obviously furthering along the trying to cut down on the travel for these teams and the stress it's put their budgets under. Um, moving with that and that same theme, and trying to go through these changes, how can we look to make tennis a revenue generating sport? Because right now you've got your revenue generating sports and tennis as a so-called non-revenue generating sport. Is there something that these programs can be doing to help create revenue for their programs, whether that's running programs on their, using their facilities? There's been talk of trying to charge for attendance. Where do you see us moving in that direction?
So first of all, great question. And I know that there's a lot of conversations going on. We have people starting to charge. I mean, it depends which budgets we're talking about. I think some people might have just seen that Daryl Cummings came out with his 2018 analysis of both athletic department budgets and tennis program budgets. And I think the largest tennis programs in the D1 space are pushing, $2 million. And I'm not sure that, $5 or $10 tickets at matches are going to generate a lot of revenue. I would encourage people to think of revenue beyond just ticket sales and concessions and the like. Obviously, things like tuition are a great source of revenue. I mean, on the men's side, when you have 4.5 scholarships, if you have 10 people on a team, there's a lot of people who are actually bringing in a lot of revenue in terms of tuition. So part of it is us framing the conversation with our ADs, but part of it is also, actually going out, talking to our alums. A lot of people go out and do a couple $100 here, a couple $100 there. But when I've been talking to athletic directors, they're going, how can you help me take big chunks out of $1 million? And it's actually hard work. Last year at our ITA convention, we actually held a session on fundraising. I was on the panel, Vince Westbrook, who's probably raised 30, 40, $50 million in Tulsa, Billy Pate at Princeton, Peter Wright. And a lot of our coaches were going, wow, I am not at those kind of schools. I've never fundraised at all. And one of the lessons that we, spoke about was, well, you got to get started. You need to have a plan. And I told people that, fundraising was about friend raising, but it's like anything else, it takes hard work. And I would encourage our coaches during this time to actually be, starting to build their lists. I think, Davidson, when I wrote to the coaches in March, early on when the season was canceled, I gave them a couple things I thought they should do. And the whole idea of organizing fundraising and alums and sending letters is something I think people can do right now. But we're going to need to come up with some models that give significant savings. As I said, I don't want to get too redundant, but 100 people at $10 for a match, that's nice. That's $1,000. And if you do it 12 times, that's 12,000. But if you got a $500,000 budget or $1 million or $1.5 million, we're going to need to do better.
Yeah, I think we're all working towards that and trying to brainstorm and come up with as many ideas as we can to help each other out. Looking at the dynamics of college tennis and scheduling, we discussed regional play. I know in previous years there's been talk of shifting the NCAA individual events possibly to the fall. You then brought up maybe creating some smaller regions, so the travel for the ITA regionals wasn't as far. Is there a discussion or any updates on what a full season of play, fall and spring, might look like?
Yeah, great question. Let me start with the NCAA piece. One exciting development that has been vetted starting at our convention is the idea that the USTA has put into a bid at the NCAAs that possibly starting in 2023 through 2026, we might put divisions 1, 2, and 3's team championship all the same week at Lake Nona at the national campus, which might raise the visibility of all of the divisions. We've talked about possibly moving our ITA convention there, creating a festival. Obviously, the success of the Tennis Channel's broadcasts last year could then extend to D2 and 3. So that's one, I think, potentially big initiative. I can say that there were significant discussions about moving the D1 individual singles and doubles to the fall. And I think a lot of us, given the current climate with COVID-19, have thought maybe now is not the time to have that move. I think we were getting close to moving in that direction. But in terms of what a season might look like, I think we're going to look at how the fall might be a little, different. We could, if we, look at a model that I think we could call a unified pathway. Dave Fish and others have created tournaments like the Boston Opens. UTR has done things. What would the fall look like if every college campus put on one or more events that actually had top juniors, their college players, recent college graduates, and even young professionals? Let's say the USTA actually put money into those. Think about how everybody could get better without flying around the country. I could see us saying, well, things like our ITA regionals are great. It's one of the best things the ITA does. But what if we had a whole new model that could help juniors, college players, and pros even all get better? I think that's the kind of big thinking that might be a new model that we might look at actually sooner rather than later.
No, those sound like exciting ideas. And a little bit different than the track and path it seemed the ITA in college tennis was on, where some national play was being encouraged. They had added the Oracle Masters in the fall, had the All-American, and then, discussions of moving the NCAA to the fall. So I guess this is changing some of that thought process and maybe getting you thinking to more, more events, more regional play, and a little bit more inclusive to everybody.
Yeah, I think, if we always start as leaders by saying, what are the goals? We've recognized that the ITA over the years under David Benjamin's leadership, and then as I took over, that our championships were some of the best things we did. And when Mark Hurd and Oracle got involved, Mark wanted to promote tennis at the highest levels, which is why we instituted the Oracle ITA Masters. But as Billie Jean King likes to say, champions adapt. And when the situations adapt, and when we have ADs saying, hey, you can't fly across the country, then we have to say, all right, what's the ultimate goal? The ultimate goal is to get people better. If you talk to people who played, back in the 80s and 90s, I was on the phone with Tim Cass the other day, who's the general manager of USTA's national campus and college tennis. He was saying when we played at New Mexico, we played out in San Diego, and we went to LA, and we came to Arizona, and maybe occasionally we went to Texas, and we all got really good. But we didn't necessarily have Arizona State, flying to Wake Forest for a one-off match just because they were the two teams that wanted to get to play each other. So I think we're going to need to be smart. We're going to need to be cost conscious, but we're not going to want to lose sight of our goal. We want to give great student athlete experiences. We want everybody to get better. And I think that'll still happen. I think, sometimes you use a crisis to actually reflect. I think we're going to try to get more efficient. We're going to get the excesses out of the system, but I don't think it's going to be at the expense of college tennis being strong, having great competition, and giving student athletes a wonderful experience.
No, I agree. And, we get better when we're challenged, and we're definitely being challenged right now. And we're being challenged to think of things in new, different ways and progressive ways. And I firmly believe that we're all going to get better and be better from this situation. It sounds like, your minds at the ITA are doing a tremendous job of trying to continue to set college tennis forward and in a future for long-lasting stability. So I appreciate all the efforts you guys are doing with the ITA and on the benefit of college tennis. So thank you.
Well, it's our pleasure to come to work on your behalf and behalf of all of our coaches and student athletes. Just one thought in regard to this idea of using a crisis to get better. There's a wonderful book, if people are looking for books, that Jeff Moore wrote called Strive Together. I think everybody knows Jeff was the women's coach at University of Texas at Austin, won 2 national championships. He now is out working with a lot of Fortune 100 and 500 companies, as well as athletic departments and actually entire universities and colleges. And his basic premise is this. I'll just give a little spoiler of the book, but maybe more of a preview, which is there's 3 kinds of teams. People who cooperate, they try to get along. People who collaborate, they feel like they're really trying to work together. But then teams that really compete, people that really push each other to get better. So I would really encourage all of us to push each other in this time to come out on the other side stronger, just as you would push each other on the court during practice every day.
Well, we will. I think that's what we're all doing right now, all trying to come together, think, we're being challenged, and we'll come out on top. All right, Tim, we are going to move on with the show. We're going to get to a section called Quick Volleys. We're going to give you some short, quick questions, and you're going to reply with some quick answers. Are you ready for
that? All right, I'll give it my best shot. I like when people give the directions because otherwise I might go too long. So the assignment is short answers.
All right. Most impactful Northwestern alumni.
Wow. We're a mafia right now. You got Todd Martin, you got Katrina Adams, you got Doug Conant, you've got John Vagosen, you got Tim Russell, you got Chris Combs, Northwestern and tennis. Wow. Hopefully that was short enough, but I got to give all the shout outs.
No, that's a good crowd and that's a good support system.
Judy Levering.
Favorite stay-at-home activity?
New favorite has been puzzles. If you're following me on Twitter, my wife and I have averaged about 1 a week. Started at 500, gone to 750. We're up to 1,000 pieces.
Are you streaming movies or TV shows?
TV, and we've moved to on demand. We're still, 64. We haven't done a lot of Netflix, but we're on demand movies.
All right. Best college tennis event of the year?
ITA National Fall Championships, followed closely by the ITA Small College Championships known as the ITA Cup. But the reason I said the Fall Championships is the small colleges got to play there also.
Best venue in college tennis?
I'm thinking. I love going to Georgia.
Georgia seems to get a lot of votes when that question comes up.
I also like going to Tulsa, Stanford as well.
Yeah, other great facilities. There's not many wrong answers there, but Athens definitely has a tradition. All right, a week at the NCAA Championship or the U.S. Open?
NCAA Championship, but I usually go 2 weeks to New York for the U.S. Open.
All right. Do you have a favorite a favorite tennis movie?
A favorite tennis movie? I just saw Match Point again, which I'm not sure is the best one, but it's the most recent one. But I loved Billie Jean's movie with Bobby Riggs also. I think that was too long an answer. I didn't give just one.
That's okay. That's okay. We're enjoying the chat. First tennis racket you ever used?
Jack Kramer.
Do you have a current tennis racket?
I do. I play with the Wilson Blade 104, not the 98. Me and Venus Williams have the same racket. It's green.
String tension?
55, and I use NXT 16.
All right. All right. Well, Tim, that is our show for today. I really appreciate you joining us on this episode of College Tennis Talk. Again, appreciate everything you've done for the ITA and will continue to do, and your vision for the future of college tennis. So thank you.
Pleasure, and thanks for your having me.
All right. Awesome. Thank you very much.